Hey everyone, and welcome back to Content and Commerce. I am really pleased to introduce our guest today, Susie Robb. She's at From Susie on Instagram. Susie is a professional at content creation, at design. She just has so much going on, and she's so talented at all of it. She is a magazine owner, a podcast co-host. She owns her own shop. She does design, and she's a nonprofit founder of a nonprofit called 626 Foundation, which we're going to ask her about. You can find her, like I said, at From Susie on Instagram. Her personal website is susierobb.com with 2 B's, and her shop is shopfromsusie.com, where you can shop all of her favorite curated finds in the design world. So anyways, Susie, welcome. I'd love for you to kind of give us a brief intro about yourself before we dive into some questions.
Okay, well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm always so kind of caught off guard when someone reads my resume and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is a lot of stuff that we do. But yeah, I mean, it didn't all start like that. You know, it developed over time, but I think you hit everything that we're working on currently. So just excited to talk business and strategy and design.
Definitely. Yeah. The core of the conversation we'll get to is we want to talk especially about how you have found how content and commerce are related and how you've used content to drive business results. But I'd love to take a step back and tell us how it all got started, because you obviously do have a lot going on. Give us kind of the rundown of how you even got into what you do.
Well, it actually started back in probably 2015, 2016. I was going through a terrible divorce, was a new single mom, and used it as an opportunity kind of to reinvent myself, or I should say to do what it is I always wanted to do. So I started working for an online retailer and just kind of worked my way up to where I was managing that store. And then I eventually purchased it and became owner and rebranded in 2018 to Shop From Susie. Changed the business model, the philosophy, the mission statement, and it's ours now. And in the interior design was always something that I loved and I did on the side. And once I bought the shop, I was able to kind of join those two together and offer both product and service, which I think is really cool. And then my heart for anyone going through hardship, especially single moms, kind of formed the foundation, which is a nonprofit interior design firm. And then I got married this year, and my new husband and I have a podcast. So, like I said, it's just kind of morphed into all these things, but it feels very organic at the same time.
Yes, definitely. That is really cool. I don't think I've ever heard of someone purchasing a shop as that you worked for while you were kind of doing creation at the same time, and then rebranding it as your own. I think that is really, really unique and really cool. That's awesome. And then what's kind of you said congratulations on the marriage this year. That's exciting. What do you and your new husband talk about in your podcast?
So it's all about blending families. It's about divorce and remarriage and all the baggage that comes with even if you're not divorced, if you've ever had a failed relationship, all the drama you bring with you. He actually has, his background is in psychology, though he's not a psychologist. And so we have a lot of fun just dissecting our brains. And it's a faith-based podcast. So we talk a lot about our spirituality and our love for God. And it's an interesting show, and we like it. So.
That's awesome. That sounds really, really cool. I'm sure you guys find a lot of fulfillment from doing that as well, just because, you probably are giving advice that you wish you had as you were going through the things that you did. Definitely.
And it's extremely cathartic, believe it or not. As you talk about things, you're like, oh, I didn't know I needed to talk about that.
Definitely. It's as much for you as it is for the listeners, I'm sure.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's awesome. And then one thing, as I was kind of researching your background and stuff, I just was really impressed with the 626 Foundation. I'd love maybe for you to talk a little bit about what the 626 Foundation is, and what you guys do.
So I had bought the shop, and then I brought the interior design firm, or created the firm, because at that point I was really just doing interior design on the side for friends, family, whomever else. So I was able to kind of brand that and really begin an interior design firm. But yet almost all of the clients that I was working with or that wanted to work with us had some sort of tragedy that they had gone through that had put them in the place they were in to where they wanted interior design services. So, for example, a newly single mom who is now in an apartment and she wants to make the house look nice, but she has no money, no resources, up to someone whose daughter was diagnosed with cancer and they want to give her a room that makes her feel good. And again, it wasn't necessarily that financial need was always an issue, but it was that they had no, they didn't feel skilled in the area, and so they needed help. So just kind of felt like we could create a nonprofit side of the interior design firm. It's completely donor funded. 626foundation.org is where people can apply, they can donate, they can nominate someone. And we just kind of do it as the resources allow us to. So we began in, I guess it would have been 2019. We completed 2 projects and then COVID hit. And then we were unable to keep going. But we are back and we are taking applications because we've got some resources again and we're ready to bless someone with those services. Again, it's not necessarily based on financial aid. So some people think, oh, I have to meet a requirement. And the only requirement is that you need some help in your home to help you get over some things that have happened.
Yes, that's awesome. I think it's cool that you found a way to give back using the talents that you have. Your nonprofit is related to, the talents that you have, I think is really cool. And I think someone going through a traumatic experience like that, it can't be overstated how important that them having a safe place and you helping them cultivate a safe place at home, I'm sure helps them get through that.
Yeah, and if we've learned anything, I think, from the entire pandemic and everyone working at home is how important your home life is. How it makes you feel, what the dynamics are, where you're living. When we brought our offices into our homes, I think people that kind of threw them for a loop. And the interior design portion of my brand really picked up. I think people were stuck at home and they wanted to finally redo that bathroom. So we really have seen just an uptick in people wanting to invest in their homes since that's where they're spending the majority of their time.
Definitely. On that note, what would you say, obviously you have a lot going on. How is the percentage of your time distributed? Are you spending most of your time doing interior design services or most of your time running shop from Susie? Talk me through kind of what your balance is in life or hopeful balances in life, right? I'm sure I think sometimes we have this false sense that we can achieve a certain balance, but a lot of times it's just push and pull. But talk to me kind of about currently what your schedule looks like.
Well, I would say it definitely fluctuates depending on the season. So right now, for retailers, this is prime time. We just came off Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So my time right now is really heavily focused on the shop. Then it will hit sort of I don't know what the right word would be, but where it all kind of slows down there for a minute and we'll be able to kind of reassess and focus on other things. But I have interior design projects going on all the time and I have a great team that doesn't really require me to be hands-on 100%. So we've got projects currently happening as the shop is going on. The podcast is something that we do weekly and we just kind of have to make time to do that, schedule it and set it aside. It requires a great deal of time management, which oddly enough, I'm not that great at. So you need flexible spouses, flexible children, and really just a team that believes in what you're doing and understands that, this still feels very grassroots to me. We've only been in business for 3 years. And so we don't have 9 to 5 work hours. This is still like our baby, and we're all just trying to make it happen. But the goal is to be a very well-oiled machine that is, perfectly allotted to these different pillars of the brand.
Definitely. I think you're spot on with, talking about a team that shares the vision. It's important to have a team that like shares the values and the vision, because otherwise I feel like you need to micromanage employees and like really be involved hands-on with every little detail. But if you have a good team around you, you can trust them to carry out your vision. And when you got started, I'm sure it kind of got to a point where you just got so busy that you needed to bring on a team. How did you make that decision? Like, I'm sure, with some of the things that you're working on, it's hard. Each one's your baby. How did you make the jump from doing a lot of this yourself to bringing on a team that you can trust?
Well, it started actually first and foremost with branding. So when I rebranded, I hired a graphic designer to help me create the branding package. What's the name, what's the logo, what are the colors, the fonts, the imagery. And I fell in love with her, and she's been with me ever since. She is our creative director now, and as far as our magazine goes, I give her just artistic freedom there. You make a very valid point about not micromanaging. If anything, I'm on the opposite extreme where I give very little direction because I just think, take it, own it, run with it, make it yours. And so as the team developed, we started with her, the branding, the marketing, and then I got so busy with the shop, I had to hire somebody to help me, kind of retail manager. The designs, I needed a design assistant who began as an intern, who worked her way up to project manager, and then just meeting people along the way. It's crazy. I think I don't know how I got to, I think, what was that, 5 full-time employees up until recently, but that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of change.
Definitely. That's awesome. Going into your design aesthetic, you have, lots and lots of people that have fallen in love, obviously, with your eye and your taste. What do you think it is? Like, first of all, how would you describe what your design aesthetic is, and then why do you think it resonates so well with so many people?
My actual personal design style is never reflected. It's not in any of my photos. It's not even in my own home yet. It's just one of those things that, I love the European French country style, but hardly anybody else wants that right now. And so I don't necessarily think it's my personal taste that they love so much as it's the approachability of me as a person and Susie Robb as a brand. And kind of hand in hand with our foundation is, getting to know your clients and knowing what it is that they want. And I feel like, as I'm an empath, just personally, and so that ability to know, okay, I think I know what it is that you need. I think I know what it is that you're trying to convey, and then to create that for them. They just love it. How did you? This is exactly what I wanted, or this is what I wanted to say, but didn't have the words. And so I think it's that skill that draws people in.
I think that's interesting, and I think it speaks to your talent as a designer, that like you're not basically just imposing your style on all of your clients, but that you understand the different styles and can, I guess, internalize their needs and their desires, and make their vision come to life. So that's cool. What would you say? So I want to kind of dive into like content and how it impacts your business. What would you say as you got started and to this point, I mean, really, like, how would you describe the role that content plays in all that you do, whether it's Shop from Susie or the other projects that you have going on?
Oh man, content. Content is the what's the word? The necessary evil. I like to think of content that way. I think you can get really caught up in content, and a lot of people get burned out because they feel like they're always, content forward. But it's the art of storytelling, um, not the rap song by Outkast, which is also called the art of storytelling. But that's what content is. It's your ability to convey your message to it's marketing genius. It's organic advertising, and it's unfortunately a machine that has to be fed constantly. I have a love-hate relationship with content, but yeah, it's all around. It really is. And so, we look at the interior design projects, and even just going to meet with the client, like get that phone out, or demoing, get the phone out, or picking out samples. I mean, everything is can become content for your brand. I think the hard part is getting lost in it, and so I've not necessarily perfected this, but I really think that the best way to do it is to have people on your team that can take that on for you, or at least help you share the load of creating content. So we hired she's actually one of my best friends, but she's our digital content creator. So she does all of our DIYs, all of our blog posts. She's creating that content, and then we share it across all of the social media platforms in various ways, so that our marketing director can take it and put it on Pinterest, or someone can put it on Instagram, and so trying to make maximize the content, I guess,
Definitely
is what I think is the key.
Yeah, I think we people, before I started working with Open House, or do some of the things that I do, it was definitely a wake-up call to me how much effort and time and I don't know, content is, like you said, it's this machine that it's this animal that needs to be constantly fed. But it is a necessary evil. I think, those brands and those creators that invest in their content and, try to produce and actually provide value to a community will just continue to perform well. And those that don't will, I think, slowly fade, into irrelevance as they become, less important and less top of mind on the internet.
Yeah, I've had this thought actually recently, as this morning. It's also about longevity. So it's who's going to keep going, and not necessarily. I've seen some incredible content out there from people that get burnt out, and then they can't keep producing it. And so I think part of the race is who's just not going to quit. That's I think a big takeaway. And then trying to maximize the content effort, spread it out amongst your people, and that's definitely helpful.
Yeah. What would you say, what has helped you avoid that burnout?
Oh, I'm burned out all the time. I'm burned out right now. Like I want to quit constantly. And I say that half jokingly. Yeah, I'm a 7 on the Enneagram, so I'm an enthusiast. I get very, very excited about new things. That's probably why I'm doing so many things, because they were all like this new idea and we're going to go chase it. And then I really struggle in follow through. I struggle in maintaining and execution. And all the things that matter. But I can be a visionary, and I can give so much enthusiasm to an idea. So that's when I say you have to have somebody on your side who believes in the vision, who actually has the opposite skill set. So someone who's not the enthusiast, they are the follow through, they are, the very tactical parts of your brand. So it's about surrounding yourself with the right people. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I just think you're spot on there. And I think I love how you described it. I think it's going to be a last person standing situation. And, I think sometimes too, content is sometimes hard to invest in because it's kind of what's the word? A fuzzy thing. There's sometimes you don't know the direct business results from a certain photo shoot or from a DIY article or whatever it may be. But you kind of just have to, I guess, walk over the edge and just trust that, that content effort and what you're producing is actually going to lead to effective business results. Because like you said, if we could directly measure the ROI of our content, I think we would be a lot more forward thinking about investing in it. But sometimes it's kind of a black box.
No, that's a good point. And, I've always spent my money on photography. That's a skill I don't have. I actually take terrible photos and I rarely post a photo that I have taken. But that was just something I was willing to invest in, was really quality photography. So I have a photographer I work with. She takes all of our photos. So the branding is always consistent. Just because it's the same photographer. But there are things that we've shared that I never expected to get the response that it did. A project that I thought was, okay, yeah, that's kind of cool. And just, went viral on Pinterest. And then other projects that I thought like, nobody's gonna, or the opposite, everybody's gonna love this. Like, we're gonna sell out of this. We better just get ready, and it, bombs. And so I would say, like, to anyone that was maybe timid about content, is you just don't know. So don't try to reinvent the wheel necessarily. Throw what you've got out there, even if it's crappy iPhone videos, because I have not yet been able to master the temperature of the client perfectly. So again, you just don't know what's going to resonate and what's not. Trial and error. Don't get worried about having to make it perfect. If you're a perfectionist, this industry sucks because it's constant just hitting you over the head. But just start.
Yeah, totally. I think those are all really, really great points. I think there's a certain aspect when it comes to content marketing of quantity over quality, which I think maybe a little bit counterintuitive, because you're thinking like, this is a video or a photo, it represents my brand, like it's gotta be just like top notch. But you really lose out on the learnings that come from producing a lot of quantity, because like you said, something may totally flop that you invested a bunch of time and effort into making perfect, and something may totally hit that you just shot on your iPhone really fast.
Yeah, it's true. And I think people would always be surprised at what they have available to them. So not feeling like you have to reinvent a wheel here, or go out and come up with a concept and shoot it and photograph it, but to say, okay, what do I already have in front of me, and how can I splice it together with the billions of apps available on the internet to make something that's, gonna portray the message I want my audience to hear. And I think you'd be surprised at what you already have just on your phone.
Yes, totally. Well, we're already going a little bit over time. I have one more question for you if you have another couple minutes. So you've worked in the past with some brands beside, like, obviously a lot of what your content you're producing is from your brand, from Susie, but I've noticed you've had a chance to work with some other brands through your Instagram. I'd love for maybe you to just tell us about a brand or two that you've loved working with in the past, and then tell us, like, what advice would you have for a content marketer or a influencer marketer at these brands on how they can more effectively work with creators like yourself?
Okay, it's interesting because I'm on both sides. I've had to reach out to influencers to market our brands, and here I am marketing other brands. So I do feel like I'm unique in that way. Some of the brands that I've worked with, most recently was a rental property company called Lodgewell. They have about 10 or 12 Airbnbs that they manage, and that relationship started a couple years ago where I reached out and was like, hey, you want to collaborate? Because I could get away and would love to share you on my Instagram. So in that way, I was the influencer, right? And now it's turned into this incredible working relationship, and I support their vision 100%. I think the advice I would give to marketers would be to really find people that believe in what it is that you're doing. As someone who's worked with influencers before, I've thought, oh, they have 500,000 followers. I'm going to send them all my stuff and invest, say $1,000, which for a small shop is a big chunk of free product and all these things. And, I've learned the hard way about contracts and really having in writing what you expect. But then have it bust and not have any ROI where their followers didn't buy anything. And so really trying to find the influencers that you can see, in not necessarily engagement on posts or whatever, but how do they talk about the brands that they like? Is it like, oh, I got this and I'm going to put it here? Or is it like, I got this and she's a single mom and she owns her own business, and I guess the level of investment they take in the brand is, to me, quantifiable in ROI than just follower count. And I do think companies are picking up on that. It's not so much about followers, it's about engagement. But then I think it's going to turn and it's going to be even less about engagement and more about the skill of selling.
It's so interesting you say that, because one thing, you didn't say this, but kind of what I took from what you're talking about is look for creators that are good storytellers that can effectively tell the story
Yes.
of your brand. And I think one thing that we've been looking at for us is we try to, look at engagement of someone, but one of the primary things we look at actually is how active is this person in their stories, and do they post a lot of stories talking to the camera and telling, engaging with their audience face to face. We found that is like definitely a qualitative way of measuring, the effectiveness of a creator, but I think it lends to what you're just talking about, like how good is this person at selling it and telling the story of their life, but also the story of the brands that they work with.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about, but it really does come down. It's sales. It's how great of a salesman are they, but make it organic.
Yeah, and the best salespeople are people that really believe in what they're selling too. So, yeah. Well, Susie, I could chat with you the rest of the day, but we'll have to do a follow-up call at some time. Thank you so much for taking the time to connect. And we will make sure to link your website, your shop, your socials, and the 626 Foundation in the notes. But again, thank you so much for taking the time to chat.
Yeah, thank you so much.